Yeah, g'day team. Welcome to another episode of Ruggerzheadz Sports Chat. We have had an episode before this one. It was a shocker. Probably the worst video you'll find on YouTube. Do yourself a favour and just steer clear of it altogether. Finally, this week we've got some sport to talk about with the NRL starting on Thursday. I'll give you a quick catch up on the rugby. And anyway, roll intro. Yeah, that's right. I haven't got that far just yet. All right, anyway, we'll get stuck into it. So rugby to start with. Sam Cane is the new All Blacks captain. That's about the biggest news I think we've had in the last few weeks. Sam Whitelock was pretty much a proper option there too, but they've opted to go with Sam Cane. For me, I think that's the way to go. I mean, he's captained more than Sam Whitelock. Sam Whitelock's great. He's going to be a leader in the forward pack, but I think my main comment is that the All Blacks play better when Sam Cane's playing. So for me, Sam Cane, no issues. People argue that he might not even be first pick for his position. The reality is, with Kieran Reid gone, Adi Savia and Sam Cane are both in there. So it really is, whoever else can fit in the other loose forward spot. Update on Super Rugby for New Zealand. We've got a Super Rugby Aotearoa competition starting off. That is on June 13 is the first game, and it's only between the 5 New Zealand teams. They'll be playing each other over 10 rounds, and at that point it'll be whoever finishes top of the table. The scoring system is exactly the same as normal, but all teams will start from scratch, so whatever games had been played in terms of results wipe clean. The games will be on Saturdays and Sundays at 5 p.m. and 3 p.m. There'll be no crowds. The reason why they're starting at those times is because the teams will travel before and after games on game day. So there won't be the players won't stay at the town they're travelling to. I think it's the only rugby in the world, Super Rugby. So get amongst it. Bowden's looking really good. Blues versus Hurricanes, Sunday 14th is probably the pick of the round against his old franchise. So looking forward to that. Other note is, from a player point of view, Milner Scudder's joined the Highlanders. Hopefully he can find some form that he has had in the past. He's pretty awesome to watch. Mitre 10 Cup this year. That should be a cracker. I'd expect all the All Blacks to play. All the international fixtures are out of the question. So the All Blacks will play in the Mitre 10 Cup again for a change, which will be great. Mitre 10 Cup will start in September. Kieran Reid could play because the Japanese rugby has been cancelled for this year altogether. They're also talking about a North and South to Origin style game, so could look forward to that. Australian rugby, not too much is happening over there. Western Force has agreed to join into their Australian competition, so there'll be 5 teams. They'll come up with some form of competition, and then if the New Zealand Australia bubble does happen, then we could see teams going backwards and forwards and having a Trans-Tasman style competition. So we'll wait and see. All right. Anyway, sport. We're finally there. We've got the NRL starting tonight with the first game, Broncos versus the Eels. I'll cover more of that in a minute, but just a quick rundown of exactly what's happening in the NRL and what we've got to look forward to. The draw has been done until round 20, so we know all the fixtures. There's 20 rounds, and then there's a normal top 8 final series. There are only going to be 6 venues used up until round 9. That's all confirmed and in place. So after round 9, we'll wait and see as levels get dropped in terms of lockdowns. We may see crowds starting to attend and other stadiums being used. The points table from before the suspension of the tournament remains. there's only going to be one referee, and there is going to be six tackles again for penalties in the ruck, so we'll have to see how that goes. Alright, Broncos versus Eels. So technically this is round 3 of the competition. That game is tonight in Brisbane. David Fifita and Pangai Jr. are out injured, but Glenn and Ofahangawe are back. So to offset that, and then Matt Lodge, who he has been named in the reserves, and all the talk is that he will be playing. I haven't checked the late mail today, but it's likely he will. Andrew McCulloch has gone. He has moved on to the Knights. So from a fantasy point of view, Hopewadi could be a good cash cow option depending on what does happen with Lodge. So we'll have to wait and see tonight. For the Eels, Nathan Brown has been suspended for 2 weeks, so he's out. The odds are even, and from my point of view, this is a pretty tough game to pick, but I'd have to go with the Broncos being at home. I know with David Fifita out, that'll add to their challenge, but yeah, I think that they will just pull that off in a close one. Next game is the Cowboys versus Titans up in Townsville. Cowboys, the biggest talking point out of there is Michael Morgan is out for a few weeks of a sore shoulder, and Jake Clifford will replace him. Clifford has played plenty of NRL, so he should be able to fit the gap quite well. Gavin Cooper is also out injured, and from that point of view, with Jason Taumalolo, from fantasy wise, he's got to be in your team. He is number 1 pick this week. If you don't have him, you have to get him, and if you have David Fifita without Taumalolo, Fifita could be out for 6 weeks, so may as well, that's a straight swap there. From the Titans, AJ Brimson is out with a fractured back. So he's been replaced by Tyrone Roberts, and Callum Watkins has returned to the UK for family reasons. I think his father was unwell, and he left right on lockdown for the coronavirus lockdown in Australia. So I think he made his way back just in time. They have a debut halfback, Jamal Fogarty, who could be a potential cash cow, but from a fantasy point of view. But that will all depend on what they do with Tyrone Roberts and the like. So Cowboys are strong favourites in that one. They'll have to win even without Morgan and Cooper. I think Hess is one to watch, and Holmes has been pretty well coming back. Been playing pretty well coming back from the US. Roosters versus Rabbitohs in Bankwest Stadium. Boyd Cordner is back as captain, so that's one of the biggest talking points. Josh Morris also starts, which was one of the big talking points over the suspension of the tournament. I think, so Josh Morris finally gets to play with his brother, and so they can hold hands or whatever they wanted to do together. Mitch Orbison is out for family reasons, so that was a big talking point. Also, Rabbits, Cody Walker's been suspended for 2 weeks because of the fight that he got into. I don't know much details. James Roberts is not named, as he is eased back into it from after spending time in rehab. Alex Johnson and Troy Dargan replace them both, but Troy Dargan will only get a couple of weeks until Cody Walker's back. Roosters are strong favourites to win that one, and I'd have to pick them as well, but it could be closer than odds suggest. Wayne Bennett has won the last 4 out of 5 games against the Roosters, but should still be able to. I think the Roosters should still be able to do it. Warriors versus Dragons up in the Central Coast. So there's big changes all around. Long-term injuries to for the Warriors. Long-term injuries to Leeson Armau, Bunty Afo, Adam Keegren, Jazz Tavanga, and more. So David Fusitu'a is unavailable for family reasons. So I mean, things are getting pretty desperate there for those guys. Hang on a minute. G'day, Mooks. How are you, mate? Yeah. Nah, going good. Yeah, nah, I've heard about your injuries, yeah. Yeah, nah, I'm definitely good. I'm good for 10 in the middle, mate. I'm good for 10 in the middle. Yeah. Nah, all good. Up the guts. Yeah, so poor Warriors. They deserve all the fans they can get. And I'm sure they will get more fans because of the effort they've made to be in Australia away from their family, and just keep this competition going. The other change there is Nikorima replaces Harris Tavita in the halves. That looks like it's a straight swap. So they're just trying to work out what's going to work best for them there. Dragons' point of view, Cameron McInnes is back, Tarek Sims, Corbin Sims, and Ravalawa, they're all back. Cameron McInnes will be the captain. Yeah, so, I mean, odds are definitely stacked against the Warriors. I think they're going to be against the odds for the rest of the season. I think I'll still pick the Warriors. I think they're going to be emotional, pumped up, and they're going to give it everything, I hope. Otherwise, it could be a long season. The Warriors have also won the last 3 games against the Dragons, and the Dragons have only won 2 of 11 away games, although this isn't really an away game. Sharks versus Tigers at Bank West Stadium. Brighton Nakora is back, but the biggest talking point out of the Sharks is that Bronson Xerri has failed a drug test with Asada. So that is suggesting that he has failed a banned substance test, performance enhancing. So we will have to wait and see. But if he is guilty, then he'll be out for a bloody long time. And the Sharks have already had a history with that sort of thing. Matt Moreland has been named in the reserves, so he could play. But if he's not this week, it's even more likely next week. So for the Tigers, Harry Grant is a new recruit from the Storm, well talked about. We've all covered that off very well. He's straight into the starting side in hooker. And from a fantasy point of view, he looks really, really good. He's got a good work rate, but last year in the Interest Super Cup, he scored 14 tries and had 21 try assists, so you'd be mad not to consider that. Alex Twal moves into lock. He's been great to start off with from a fantasy point of view as well. Adam Dewey starts at fullback, and Moses Imbai to centre. Corey Thompson and Elijah Taylor are out. Don't know why Corey Thompson's not playing, but he probably should be. So we'll wait and see. Sharks are slight favourites. I think it'll be a close one, and the Sharks have won the last 6 against the Tigers. It's kind of a big deal, so I will go with the Sharks, just slightly. Yep, so the Storm versus Raiders at Amy Park in Melbourne. Brandon Smith and Christian Welch are back to replace Tui Kamitha and Tom Eisenhuth. Other than that, not much has changed. But yeah, I'd suggest that Brandon Smith, Kiwi rep, Christian Welch, Origin rep, that definitely boosts their side. The Raiders have made no changes in their 17, so we'll wait and see if they do make any late changes. But that's the only team to not make any changes since round 2 for this round. John Bateman isn't back yet. That was the big talking point. He's not named even in the extended squad, so he won't be playing at all. Jordan Rapana has been named in the extended squad, and he is back in the side because the Japanese rugby tournament was cancelled. So he was making some cash in that, but he's back now, so he may make an appearance this weekend. We'll wait and see. Panthers versus Knights in Campbelltown. Biggest talking point there is Nathan Cleary is out for the Panthers for 2 weeks. I think that was well publicised, well reported, and well documented that he broke rules. I think based on some of the images I saw, I think we would have all been guilty and got caught out with that. So he was replaced by Matt Burden, but again, he might only be playing for 2 weeks. I think from a fantasy point of view, that just boosts Luai's prospects for the next couple of weeks, who is already making good money, so that's a good result. if you have Luai in your team. Coruscant, every team's got to have him from a fantasy point of view. He's been one of the best players in the first 2 rounds, and he is still cheap. Capewell is also starting his first game after joining the Panthers from the Sharks, and the starting back row. Kalen Ponga is suspended for 1 week, which means that Tex Hoy has a chance to make his debut. Jaden Brayley has torn his ACL, so he's out for the rest of the season. He did that over the NRL suspension. And Andrew McCulloch from the Broncos, which I mentioned before, has not been named at all, so he won't be playing. So that means Connor Watson goes into hooker for probably just this week. And then Kalen Ponga will be back next week as well. So the odds are slightly in favour of the Panthers. I'd say it'll be a pretty close one because the Knights should do pretty well this year. Panthers are without Nathan Cleary. Knights are without Kalen Ponga. But I will go with the Panthers, I think. We'll go with the Panthers. But yeah, it's a pretty tough one to call. All the games are pretty hard to pick, to be fair. Sea Eagles versus Bulldogs in the last game of the round. That is on Sunday afternoon up at the Central Coast, which is where the Sea Eagles will be based. There are no changes to the Sea Eagles starting 13, just a couple of changes to the bench, which is hardly worth talking about. Kieran Foran is not back for the Bulldogs, but the Bulldogs have dropped Brendan Wakeham, and he was replaced by Jack Cogger. So I would suggest, because the Bulldogs' attack is probably the worst you'll come across in the competition, so I would say they're just trying to do something there, even though Kieran Foran is due back any week. Back rower Joe Stimpson is out long term, which is a big blow to the Bulldogs as well. He was a good signing. The Bulldogs should get pumped, I would say, unfortunately for them. So I'm tipping the Sea Eagles to do that one easy. Normally I like to talk about a bit of an upset of the round. This week is going to be so hard to get any tip right. So I'm just going with the Warriors, and that's just more out of hope than anything else. I do not suspect they will win, but they will be fired up. So hopefully the emotion of it all can get them across the line. Anyway, enjoy the round of NRL. I can't wait. We finally made it. If you did make it this far, pat yourself on the back. Go on. You've earned it. And enjoy. I will put another video on early next week to talk about any sport updates, the NRL round, and any fantasy talk as well. Good chat. I guess that'll just about do it.